Hey y'all, it's Sarah, the wine-loving bookworm, back with your book review on a Wednesday night. As I said last week, we are going to Vermont on Saturday for about a week, so I won't be able to do it, this coming up Sunday. So I thought I would go ahead and read a book and get it ready for you on Wednesday. So I did. Okay, let's jump right into the wine. I just want to show you, gal, before I drink the wine. It's a twist off top. Don't you just love a good twist off top? I'm so glad that's not like, it's a twist off top anymore, because corks are just so annoying, right? Like, you gotta like wrench it, and then you gotta pull it out, and then it breaks off and it drops in, and it's just annoying. So I'm so glad that's not like a white trash thing anymore, with the twist off top. So I am trying the Toad Hollow Dry Rosé. I am not like a huge rosé person, and not because I don't like it, I just don't really ever drink it. To me, like, I see pink and I think sweet, and I'm not a sweet wine person, but rosé is all the rage now. You see that frosé, and it's all like Kylie Jenner and stuff drinking it, and so I decided to give it a shot. And this was dry rosé, they said, of Pinot Noir, which is my favorite wine, so I'm like, let's give it a shot. Ooh, sorry there. So, cheers. Oh, now that is good. Hold on, one more time. Man, that is almost like a champagne kind of taste, like a dry champagne kind of taste. Man, that's good. I might have to give rosé another shot, and maybe I'll try the other ones, but that's good. It's not what you think a pink wine would taste like. One more time. Oh yeah, that's good. All right. Let's pick yourself up some rosé. It's not just for the Kardashians. So let's move on to the book. I read Only Child. Oh, and also that wine was like $13, so it's really not just for the Kardashians, just letting you know. So anyway, I read Only Child by Rhiannon Navin. I think I said her last name was Navarro last time, but it's Rhiannon Navin. It's fiction. Now, she is originally from Germany, and she moved to New York City because of her advertising career, but right now she's a full-time mom and writer. And Only Child was her debut novel. Now, this was my book club selection. I knew nothing about it. I just picked it up and went home with it, knowing zero about it. Book club's actually tomorrow night, so I don't have the insight of my book club crew yet. But, I had to do it tonight. Tomorrow night's not going to work, so my book club. And then Friday night's me packing, and doing crazy stuff, getting ready for Vermont. So, this was a very difficult book for me to read. I really feel like it's the most difficult book I've ever read. I'm like thinking about it. There may have been others that really hit me, but this one really hit me. It's based on the Sandy Hook school shooting, which in case, some of you don't know out there, it's like 2012. Guy walked into an elementary school with an AR-15, I think, rifle, and shot 26 people, including 20 first graders dead. 20 first graders dead. Okay? So this book doesn't say it's Sandy Hook or anything like that, but it's Sandy Hook. It's inspired by her own son's fears of their lockdown drills, and that's what she says in some of her interviews. They have lockdown drills at school. I'm sure you all know about that if you have children, that they do lockdown drills at school. My child does it. And I guess she found her kid like hiding under the table, like the bad man's coming, and so it inspired this book for her. It's told entirely from the perspective of 6-year-old Zach. So he survives the shooting, but his brother does not. I mean, kind of spoiler alert, but that's real early on, so not early. And I mean, Only Child. I mean, you kind of put the pieces together. So it's how it affects their family. When you tell something from the perspective of a child, and if you've ever read Room by Emma Donoghue, and if you haven't, please do, because it's absolutely amazing, one of my favorite books. Whenever you have something that's like a disturbing type subject matter, like shooting first graders, what could be worse? When you take it from the perspective of a child, it kind of makes it easier in a way to tell the story, because when you think about it, how could you tell it from the perspective of a parent? I mean, that would never sell because it would be so horrific and devastating. I mean, I can't even, how would you even put that into words, you know? So when you're telling it from kind of the innocent perspective of a child, it lessens it somewhat, and it's easier to tell the story, I think. Now, just personally, my son was 6 when Sandy Hook happened. So, you know, he was the exact age as these kids. And that was so difficult for me to know that someone went in and killed somebody, some little kid that's the same age as my son. And then in this book, the son was only, the one that died was only 2 years younger than my son is now. So this stuff just hits you as a parent like a freight train. You know, it really does, because you can really put yourself in their situation. My son does lockdown drills now, you know, and they don't tell, they not only don't tell the students, they don't tell the teachers. So your student, your child has to see that fear on the teacher's face, like, maybe this isn't a drill. Because how wouldn't you think that every time, you know? And my heart just breaks when he tells me about it. I don't want him to be scared. I don't want him to be fearful that someone's coming in to shoot him, because he is, you know, because he knows about this stuff. Our kids are so much wiser than we were at that age about these kinds of things. They just are. So to be honest, the first several chapters of this book, I cried my eyes out. And the last several chapters of this book, I sobbed. I mean, just sobbed. Because as a mother, you can put yourself, as a mother of a small child, I mean, he's not small anymore, but you know, a young child, I can put myself in those parents' shoes. Like, boom, I'm there. I'm there in that hysteria, trying to find your child, not knowing what happened to your child, going to the hospital trying to find your child. I am there in that hysteria. It's just so easy for me to imagine that. So I just don't know how you survive a loss like that. I think about it with my son. I don't know how you survive a loss like that. I don't know. I mean, I guess you find your way. And they did, you know, in various different ways in the book. So the things she did well, conveying how the children felt through it. I thought it was interesting how he picked up smells, like the coffee on his teacher's breath, and one student threw up, and so he picked up that smell, like the smells, you know, the sensations, the pop, pop, pop of the gun. He tried counting it at one point. So that was interesting, because it almost felt like something a child would do. The mom just being frantic when she got to the church they were being held in, and finding him and trying to find her other son, and the waiting and the waiting and the waiting, and just feeling that in your heart that would just kill you, like waiting to see if your son's alive or dead, like your child, your little child, like, you know, horrifying. Conveying the absolute panic of the parents. There was one point where she's trying to get to the hospital, and she calls her husband like, there's no parking spaces, there's so much traffic, I don't know what to do. He's like, just park on the freaking sidewalk and get in there, you know, because the husband stayed at the church just to see if, you know, the son would show up. So it's just the panic, you know, the panic, and you feel it as a parent. The absolute despair of the mother after she found out, and for months afterwards. I mean, I felt that. She would go and sleep in his bed, you know, and cry. And I feel like I would do the exact same thing, you know. And again, telling it from a child's point of view makes it a little bit easier. And every day, Zach, the one that survived, would go check his brother's bed. Like, walk into his room, check his brother's bed. Like, oh, like, maybe it didn't happen, kind of thing, you know. Also, there was a moment to me that I thought was very genuine, where Zach, the little boy, everybody talks positively of those who have passed. I mean, that just is what happens, even if they're not the best person in the world. Now, Andy, his brother, was 10, so I mean, he's a child, but I guess they kept saying he had ODD, which I think is oppositional defiant disorder, which means he blew up a lot at his parents. You know, he had some kind of problem where he was angry a lot. So Zach used to get mad, thinking, you know, he wasn't so nice all the time. Why are they saying he's such an angel? Why are they saying he's so sweet, you know? So that's a very genuine moment to me. And him saying, oh, maybe mom and dad won't be so upset anymore, and there won't be so much fighting now. You know, that's what he thinks. And then he feels bad about it. But that's how a child processes things, you know? And there's a whole part where he hides in his brother's closet, and he feels safer in there, and he reads books in there. You know, I thought that was a genuine moment. The things I didn't like were, like, the entire middle part. I think it went off the rails for me. It got very cliche, which is kind of hard to say about a book about a school shooting, you know. But it just got very cliche. The mom went on a rampage to like sue people, you know. I won't give it all away, but it became somewhat of like a Lifetime movie to me. Just very cliche. I didn't like it. But towards the end, it came back around again, and she did a great job ending it. But somewhere in the middle there, you know, she just kind of pulled from all these different, basically cliche kind of stories, and I didn't like that at all. Otherwise, the book was great. Like I said, it brought me to tears. I mean, very few books can bring me to tears, and this one absolutely did. It's a tough book. It's kind of like last week. It's a tough book to read, but very good. I would give it probably 3.5 out of 5 because just that middle part threw me. Didn't like the whole middle part, but the beginning and the end, if you can deal with that kind of heart-wrenching matter, were very good. There's also a Netflix documentary about this shooting, and I watched it just to kind of refresh and, you know, go into this book kind of with that background. It's called Newtown, and that was really hard to watch too. Gosh, the first part of it, I sobbed again, you know, just listening to the 911 calls, listening to these parents talk about their kids, seeing the videos. And I mean, these kids were older in the book that died, a little bit older. I mean, not necessarily a lot older, but the kids, you know, that actually died were babies. They were like 6 years old. You see the videos, they're babies, you know. And there was a doctor testifying in front of Congress that, you know, the kids had 3 to 10 bullet holes in their bodies, like, you know, the actual Sandy Hook massacre. And that he's just basically saying, like, they didn't bring him to the hospital. Like, kind of saying that there's not a whole lot left there, you know. And to process that is just, it's horrifying to me as a mother. Horrifying. So it's a good documentary, but man, be prepared during certain parts, especially if you have small children, if you're going to watch it. But it was a good kind of refresher for me on what happened, and these sweet little, you know, angel faces, like, just, it tears you apart. Okay, so let's move on. Wow, 2 like super heavy books in a row, right? Next week, and I got this on my Kindle, so let me pull it up on my phone, and I thought it would be easier a little bit since we're on a plane and we're packing and all that stuff to have something on a Kindle. This book is called Educated. Here's the, can you see that? Not really, like, that's crazy. Can you see it at all? Educated, it's called. It's got a big pencil on it. It's called Educated. It's like one of the 10 best books of the year. I think it's about a girl that was raised in kind of one of these, like, you know, survivalist families in like Idaho or something, and she finally gets into high school, college, things like that, and how her life is affected by being raised by that. So I was just automatically intrigued because so many people just raved about it. So that will be next week, not this Sunday, but the Sunday after. I will definitely finish that one, and I'll give you guys a review on that one. So that's my book review for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in on a Wednesday. And again, only child, good, but you kind of gotta get over the middle parts. I guess I would recommend it. But again, this is very serious subject matter, so if you can handle it. I myself, who like don't cry a lot, sobbed at this book. And again, Toad Hollow Dry Rosé of Pinot Noir. I'm a huge fan. I mean, this just made me a fan of rosé. So let's try it one more time. Oh yeah, that's good. So pick you up some of that. All right, until next week, cheers. Have a great week.